Morning, everybody, and welcome to the April 23rd meeting of the Audit Committee. Roll call, please.
Audit Committee Member Richard Corral.
Here.
Ed Khachadurian.
Here.
Tom O'Shaughnessy.
Here.
Alex Parahon.
Present.
Okay, let's try this again. There we go. Let's give it one more shot. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the April 23rd, 2018 meeting of the Audit Committee. Roll call, please.
Audit Committee Member Richard Corral.
Here.
Ed Khachadurian.
Here.
Tom O'Shaughnessy.
Present.
Alex Parahon.
Present.
And Audit Chair Zaria Mirian.
Here. Before we get to the business agenda, we have these beautiful iPads that we are going to be testing out. We'll have all of our meeting documents available on these iPads, and so as I understand it, we are the first, we're the groundbreakers when it comes to innovation and technology as it pertains to trying these iPads out. So if we do have any technical difficulties, we may pause in order to address those, but I don't foresee that happening. And I appreciate everybody's patience. Let's move on to the business agenda, please.
Number 2 is the business agenda. Report of Recording Secretary regarding posting of agenda. The agenda for the Audit Committee meeting of April 23, 2018 was posted on Thursday, April 19, 2018 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
Thank you. Oral communications, I do not see any cards, so we will move on to item number 4, please.
Number 4 is approval of minutes. Minutes of the Audit Committee meeting held on Monday, January 22nd, 2018.
I would move adoption as presented.
Second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Audit Committee Member Richard Corral.
Go ahead and approve the minutes.
Ed Khachadurian.
Yes.
Tom O'Shaughnessy.
Yes.
Alex Parahon.
Yes.
And Chair Zaria Mirian.
Aye. Let's move on to item number 5, action items. We have no action items on the agenda. Let's move to item number 6, please, reports and information.
Number 6A, Internal Audit Activity Report as of March 31st, 2018. Jessie Zhang, Internal Audit Manager.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Jessie Zhang, Internal Audit Manager. This morning, I would like to provide you the report on internal audit activities for the quarter ended March 31st, 2018. You may find the activity report within the iBook on your iPad. Did you all have that? Actually, let me load it up on the screen as well. So all the documents you have is actually on the city's website. So for this meeting, because first time we try on the iPad, I preloaded everything, but you can easily access these documents online. So you go to city website and then go agenda, minutes, and under audit committee, agenda. Oh, could not load. Oh, wonderful. Okay. So, and then you click on the activity report. So that's the report we're going to go over as well if you want to prefer the bigger screen.
And this report is available in real time to anybody who visits the website, correct?
Right.
Wonderful.
When we emailed the link to you, the agenda along with the document to you, and then it's available on the website as well.
Okay,
About same time, right after you guys.
wonderful.
So, all right. So during this past quarter, we issued one report, which is the Community Development Block Grant, CDBG Financial Ratio Calculation. We have been providing these non-audit services to the Parks Department for the past 7 years. Now I just give you a very high-level overview of this project. The objective of this project was to provide the CDBG Advisory Committee with an additional tool to be utilized while evaluating funding decisions for the current year. The scope of this project was to calculate 6 predetermined financial ratios on each of the 12 CDBG applicants' latest financial statements. These financial statements were provided by staff to us. We did not perform any additional procedures on reviewing these financial statements, and the internal audit did not express an opinion on the financial health of any of the agency applicants. So the ratio computation was performed by Samil Salim, our senior internal auditor, and Natalie Minami Valdivia, also senior internal auditor, reviewed the calculation and issued the report on my behalf while I was on vacation, actually. So they both did a very good job on completing the project and provide the information to the Community Services and the Parks Department on time. So in addition to issuing the report and providing the ratio calculation detail to the department, internal audit conducted a PowerPoint presentation to the CDBG Advisory Committee on February 23rd. So at the presentation, internal audit provided an overview of the report. As a refresher to the committee members, we also went over the descriptive information of the ratio, how the ratios were computed, the formulas used, and the meaning of each ratio. We also reminded the committee members that the ratio should not be evaluated on a standalone basis. It should be evaluated in comparison with other agencies and also from year to year to make sure they're more meaningful. So that's basically a brief summary of this project. If you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer them. We also have representative from the Community Services and the Parks Department. This actually the first year after Moises retired. So then, Maggie did a good job on coordinate this project with us, and the transition is pretty much seamless. So with that, if you have any questions.
Welcome, and I have a couple questions. One has to do with, has there been any feedback solicited from the Community Development Block Grant Committee and or staff, supporting staff, in terms of how useful they find this particular project?
Good morning, Chair Marion, Audit Committee and staff. I'm Maggie Kavarian, Community Services Supervisor, along with my colleague Armina Hunanian.
Is the microphone on? Let's make sure it's on. There we go, it's on. Yep.
Is it on?
Yep.
Okay. And my colleague here, Armina Hunanian, who is the CIP and Social Services Project Manager for CDBG. And to answer your question, when we review the CDBG ratios, we review them as the proposals come in, we turn them into IPA. And as staff reviews them, we ask those questions, and then we give them over to the CDBG Advisory Committee. And this year, I didn't notice anyone calling us or asking us any questions, anything that stood out. Do you want to?
Good morning, committee members. Yes, basically, we did not have any public comments or anybody communicating with us, asking us questions about solvency of our agencies that we're applying. There was absolutely no concern or questions asked from the staff throughout the proposal process.
Would it be appropriate to have, you know, potentially a formal request for feedback from the committee members to evaluate what staff and CDBG members' thoughts are on the efficacy and the value of this information?
Absolutely, Chair Amirian. We plan on meeting in August as a committee, and we can add that to our agenda, and we would definitely get you a report on that.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. And I mean, as a former CDBG committee member and chair myself, I mean, this type of information, before it was being done by the audit committee, you know, I was trying to do my own poor man's version of it. So I imagine the answer will be a resounding yes, this is useful. But I think it's probably beneficial for all of the parties involved to codify that sort of response and get it, you know, occasionally get some sort of feedback from the stakeholders involved. Any other questions for?
I have a question here. How come these financial statements, some of them are pretty old? Talking about 2016. How come they don't provide current ones, like 17?
Yes. We had that.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
some of our agencies were when they turned in their proposals, they had to turn in 2-year financial statements. Some of our agencies were in process of completing, and it wasn't done. But at the time for February 23rd meeting that we resumed with our CDBG Advisory Committee, they were all completed. So it's a timing issue with each agency. When they completed, they're supposed to complete it end of the year. For this proposal timeframe, it should have been done by end of December. So they turned it in, but the proposals were due December 28th. So sometimes it fluctuates with our agencies of turning it in, but they turn it in. So if you had 2016 in there, that's the reason, because they were working on it. And we were informed as staff that they're working on it and they'll turn it in.
I have a question. How many applications, how many proposals are we talking about on average? 'Cause I remember we had the same conversation last year.
We had 16 proposals turned in from 12 agencies. 8 were CIP capital improvement yes, 8 were capital improvement projects and 8 were social services projects.
Okay. And I don't know if it's relevant, but what is the average size of the grant dollars that they will receive?
That's a good question. It's a little over $730,000 in the complete pot.
That's social and capital
combined.
Combined.
240,000 for just social, a
And then-
little under 500,000 for capital.
And my next question, I remember this clearly last year. I actually asked the same question. Why is the Community Services and Parks Department not asking the applicants to provide these financial ratios? I mean, you would imagine that they have, if they are qualified to apply for funding, they'll have financial departments that are capable of providing these ratios. And why should the city department allocate staff time to calculate this?
Want me to answer it? I'll give you mine.
Okay.
Our nonprofits, most of them are small, and with HUD requirements and guidelines, they've already got multiple things that they have to turn in, requirements, criteria that they have to turn in. We have a hard enough time getting them to turn in their information and their proposals at the deadline. So this is just an extra layer for them. If you'd like to add a little bit more to that, since you've got a better history of it.
Yes, committee members, generally speaking, these are nonprofit agencies. Their dollars and the fundings are very small. So as it is to have them go out there and outsource and get accountants to comply their financial statements, it's extremely hardship and burden for them to provide that to us. But we require that to make sure that they're solvent and they're a good standing agency to provide the services for the community. So with that said, we, as the staff, need to have another set of eyes, our audit committee, to look at it, to make sure that everything is accurate, to make sure that they're in compliance with, as far as their annual statement goes. So to make sure that they're solvent and good agency to move forward, and if for our committee members to continue funding them. I think that's one of our major concerns because of their nonprofits, they're small agencies, and funding is an issue with them to provide that services.
Well, in that case, I would like to echo Chairman Amirian's statement that it would probably be better for us to know whether or not the committee, the CDBG committee, really thinks that this is a valuable piece of information to help them with their decision-making process. Otherwise, personally, I think this is not the best allocation of city's resources.
I have a question. Are these calculations, are these financial ratios, something that we could potentially put a sort of a ratio calculator online? And the reason why I'm asking is to sort of strike a compromise here, in the sense that if there was something, if they could enter the numbers themselves, which they do have. I mean, usually they're probably from their 990s or their P&Ls or their balance sheets or a combination thereof, that to kind of allow them to take control or to step up. And if we can provide, and I think they actually sometimes are even available online, so it might be assembling existing tools that are already online, that could then put the ball more maybe in their court to produce those ratios, and thereby actually providing them with an opportunity to build their local capacity as small organizations in terms of their financial ability to produce this important information.
When we take that back to the CDBG Advisory Committee, we'll definitely include that as a recommendation.
Yeah, and this might be an opportunity for innovation, as it were, in the sense that if we're spending about 160 hours a year compiling this information using the audit committee's, the audit department's resources, it might be a better one-time use of those type of hours, maybe from the technology department, in order to compile what seems to be, fairly straightforward, calculations. I mean, the information, they'd probably need some support in finding that information, maybe first time around, but it might end up being a better use of time rather than every year spending 160 valuable audit hours doing something that might be able to be fairly simply automated.
I totally agree. Actually, a couple of questions the committee members just brought up. We had that discussion before we started this year's calculation project. One being, can we have the agency to provide the calculation, but then we're thinking there may be inconsistency issues among different CPA firms, although the formulas are all there, but that's a quality control issue. And another point we're thinking about is exactly what you said, the online calculator, so that anybody, any agency can just go there and calculate. And then the little concern we had over there is, although most of the numbers we use to calculate the ratios are available from the statements themselves, but sometimes we need to read the notes and to make some adjustment to the numbers. So that's the little technical issues we have to deal with. So, but we're definitely thinking about that as well.
The information itself is not evaluated in any way for, it's not investigated for veracity, it's not evaluated in any way, it's just these calculations are being put together and the reports being given to CDBG, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think, so two takeaways, I think, would be, one, getting feedback from CDBG and stakeholders regarding, the actual efficacy and use of these numbers, and two, maybe as an innovation opportunity, seeing if it's possible to create some kind of calculator or compile existing calculators, as my fellow member suggested, in order to facilitate this process and save everybody a bunch of time.
One follow-up question. The CDBG application, is it online or paper or both?
It's actually both. So it's online,
Uh-huh.
and then there's a technical assistance meeting where they hand the proposal packet to the agencies that are considering.
So
applying.
is there an opportunity, assuming that the financial pieces are submitted online, is there an opportunity to kind of expedite some of these calculations by pulling the existing numbers that are provided and to provide a preliminary ratio that then can be verified with any sort of additional notes or commentary from auditors or CPAs as needed? Just wondering.
It would be possible if their statements are done and completed.
Sure.
But if we have to go back and, let's say, for the following year to only look at the 2016 or 2017, then that will be a concern. If the agency has done by September of 30th, it would work with our time frame, because then it gives us time in November, December to take a preliminary look at those agencies. But if the agency has not completed their financial statement, then we will not be able to do that.
Okay.
That's an option we could exercise as well.
Are these audited financial statements, or are they just regular?
They're audited financial
audit
statements.
So
yes.
when they're audited, I mean, they could easily already add in there these ratios from the accounting firms. It really doesn't take a scientist to figure these out. The ratios from their department, they're already paying arm and a leg for that service, so they can just easily implement it, provide it to you guys.
We could request that. Yeah.
And save the resources that we have here already, for other purposes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. All good questions. So now moving on to the projects currently in progress. So we have 4 projects that are currently in progress. As you know, that once the project is complete and the reports are issued, then we will have a more formal presentation on the audit results. For now, I will go through these projects, but focusing on the objective scope and the auditors who are assigned to each audit. So the first one is Magnolia Power Project Audit. So the objective of this audit is to verify costs billed by the City of Glendale, make sure they are proper budgeted, valid, allowable, and reasonable. So the audit has work assigned. So this project was actually a joint effort between Glendale and the City of Anaheim. They are the leading agency for this audit. And the audit has work assigned to us, Samil Salim, already been completed. So actually a draft report was issued. However, City of Burbank had some questions and requested additional audit procedures to be performed. So for now, we're on the standby mode, and then the additional procedures is being performed by City of Anaheim auditor. So once the audit is done and the report is issued, we'll provide a copy to you.
Quick question.
Go ahead.
Excuse me.
No worries.
You mentioned when you were introducing this audit that you said verify cost billed by the City of Glendale, but when you're looking at it on the pad, it says City of Burbank.
Burbank. Sorry,
Okay.
did I misspoke?
No problem.
Can you give us a little bit of insight into how this audit was, you know, how the involvement of the city of Glendale internal audit and the city of Anaheim internal audit, can you kind of refresh our memory in terms of how that kind of came to be, that our involvement in a, you know, in this particular project? In terms of how, the city of Anaheim, how is the city of Anaheim, you know, how they became a part of this audit?
Well, when this project was brought to our attention, I was not the person who in charge, so I don't really have from memory to talk about this, but maybe Bob has some.
Yes, I do. Actually, no, my mic is on. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Magnolia Power Plant is what's known as a SCAPA project, Southern California Public Power Authority, of which Burbank is the home agency, where it's built right off Magnolia, hence the name, in Burbank. Their part owner, operator of the plant, as well as the cities of Glendale, Anaheim, Azusa, what other? I think there's 6 total. I think Glendale has a 16% stake. Burbank's is 30. Anaheim's, you know, there's different percentages added up. So as the operator, Burbank is open to audit by the other cities that receive shares of the costs. Hence why we go and look at it in conjunction with the city of Anaheim.
Great, thank you. How has it been working with the city of Anaheim on this audit, their internal audit? Has there been an opportunity to kind of share some best practices or glean, you know, techniques or things that they do in a certain way that might be beneficial to us, or vice versa?
Yeah, there are definitely conversations. I think Samil probably has a little. Yeah, do you have a? I know Samil and then the auditors from City of Anaheim have, you know, frequent conversations on how do you do this.
Good morning, Mr. Audit Chair and Audit Committee members. So yeah, so we've shared a lot of stuff. So we implemented electronic work papers, and so just offline they talked to us, hey, what are you guys doing for your work papers and stuff like that. And so we shared kind of ideas that we're working on, and when we implemented OneNote to do our work papers, we sent an email out. I sent an email out to them saying, hey, this is what we're doing. It's pretty good. You guys might want to take a look at it. They called about how our audit shop is set up. And so yeah, there's a lot of informal back and forth. They've been great as far as interpersonal communications, very informal, but professional, but it's a very good experience in my opinion.
Great. Yeah, that's really good feedback. Thank you.
Yeah. Is that all?
That's it. That's it for now.
One more.
Okay, let's move on to the homeless program's operational audit.
So the next project, homeless program operational audit, objective is to determine if adequate controls exist to ensure the city's homeless program is administered in an efficient and effective manner. The focus of this audit is really on efficiency, to determine whether we're doing all the tasks required for us to do in an efficient manner with our limited staff level. So interestingly, actually LA County Auditor Controller's Office just released an audit report on the Measure H homeless program audit, and then the very first finding from that report is staffing level, and then the audit recommended LASA to perform assessment on the staffing level. Actually, what we added to the scope of our audit is to conduct analysis or a study on the tasks. So we call it objective list or task list. So basically, we want to find out, you know, what are the things we need to do to run these programs or, you know, the projects, whatever you call it. And for each each objective or task, how often do we have to do it, and how much time is needed based on our best estimate or past experience. So we're compiling this huge spreadsheet, and hopefully by the end of it, we will be able to provide the department some baseline information on how much work is there, and to help them determine what's the proper staffing level going to be. So that's.
Miss Siri is joining in on our meeting. Committee member Siri. Okay. Any questions regarding that project?
So how are the tasks and deliverables established that you're assessing and measuring in terms of success or cost?
So let me make sure I understand. So you're asking about how we determine the tasks, or
what was the process by which the
How-
tasks and the objectives were standard, which you are in turn assessing?
so we basically meet with the staff from the homeless program office, and Natalie spent actually a lot of time based on, first of all, what we know from the preliminary survey and our risk assessment process. And then we have some, preliminary knowledge on what other tasks are there, and also the frequency of those. And then Natalie met with each of the staff members to go over how much time you spend or normally require to complete each of the tasks.
And are you using the county Measure H Homeless Initiative audit as sort of a point of reference or comparison to see perhaps how the Glendale continuum of care is performing in relationship to other standards and other outcomes?
Very good question. Actually, this is just our normal practice. Whatever audits we're doing, we always research, see if there are any other audit reports has been issued, and if there are common, challenges that everybody is facing. So.
And then when is this report due? Because I guess it's not. When is the expected completion date on this?
For ours, I hope by next meeting you will hear our report on this.
Great.
Exciting. Thank you.
Thank you.
One quick question. Because of the way LASHA has the breakout across the county and the fact that Essencia's catchment area is at Glendale but Atwater Village Northeast, do we have any involvement with Triple H funding, or is it purely the county money?
I'm not sure about.
Triple H is City of Los Angeles.
Right. I'm just curious if because of the catchment area for Essencia, we're crossing lines, do we end up picking up any residual funds from City of LA because we are, in some of what LASHA does, it rolls into Atwater Village as well as into the Northeast.
My understanding is that Glendale is its own continuum of care.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
Is that
for
correct?
answering questions.
Yeah, maybe we can take that question back and have an answer at some point to the committee. Fire Prevention Bureau Operation Audit.
All right, so the next one is the Fire Prevention Bureau Operational Audit. The objective of this audit is to determine if the adequate controls exist to ensure that the Fire Prevention Bureau is operating in an efficient and effective manner. So the scope of this audit is to assess the operation of the entire Fire Prevention Bureau. So it's going to be on a very high level from the strategic perspective, but with limited analysis and the test work will also be performed. So Samuel is currently working on this audit.
And this is related to the $15 fee, $15 charge that I received from, for assessing brush? Is that related to this?
It may be if, if the bureau need to assign firefighters or inspectors to do some inspections resulting
It's
from
part of that.
Wonderful.
But
I just found it interesting that the plan number happens to be 15, and I got a $15 bill recently.
You're speaking of the vegetation management program.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
I got one too.
Very good. Transformer inventory and controls audit.
So the objective of this audit is to determine whether adequate controls are in place for inventory management of the electrical transformers. So the scope of this audit focused on in-stock transformers. Sub-objective included, for example, stocking levels, is that appropriate, criteria used for selecting transformers to be used, and also the disposal procedures. So the auditor working on this project currently is Ani Antonician. So Mr. Chair and the members of the committee, at this point, I would like to introduce the new addition to our team, Ani Antonician. Ani joined us in February this year. Before that, she worked for City of San Jose, City Auditor's Office for about 3 years. Ani earned his bachelor's degree in political economy from UC Berkeley, and her master's in public administration from USC. So she's been with us for about 2 months now, and we're very happy to have Ani on our team. And please join me to welcome Ani.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Yeah, welcome. We look forward to the outcome of this audit.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Transformers.
Okay. The not quite as exciting as the transformers everybody thinks about once they hear that word, but still important to the infrastructure of the city. Okay, let's move on, please.
All right, so the next section is the quarterly follow-up status. So for the past quarter, internal audit conducted a follow-up on 52 open audit issues from the past completed audits. 6 of them have been implemented, with 46 remaining outstanding at the end of the quarter. For the as of March 31st, 2018, there was no outstanding audit issues with priority 1 risk ranking, and there are no outstanding audit issues for discussion based on the criteria set by this committee according to resolution number 2. Team assignment, same 2 teams we participated. One is the Investment Policy Advisory Committee, and the other is Energy Risk Management Committee. So that's pretty much concluded my activity report. I will be happy to answer any additional questions you may have. And after the meeting, I would like to collect we can stay a little while and collect your questions and feedback on your experience using iPad for this meeting.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Let's move on to item number 7.
Number 7 is Audit Committee and staff comments.
Welcome to the new member of the audit, internal audit department, and thank you for staff rolling out and these iPads. I think it's a beautiful system. I think if it gets applied correctly, just the amount of paper printed out that it will save when calculated out with the number of committees that meet and the the frequency, I think just that by itself would be a very interesting dollar amount, and in terms of the number of trees saved. So I think I'm looking forward to seeing how this gets rolled out with the rest of the city.
I have a comment. Robert, what's the VTD timeframe? They've been with us already for how many years now?
This will be their 5th year doing the audit, so they will start, I believe, the first or second week of May doing their interim field work, and then they'll come back during the summer to do single audit, and then again in October to do the final steps of the audit, which we hope to have done by Thanksgiving. This is their final year of their 5-year contract. We will probably take a report to City Council asking to extend their contract one more year, because we are in the middle of doing our system implementation, and to have a new auditor while you're doing a system implementation would be pretty disastrous in my opinion. So we will probably approach the council sometime in the next several months about extending the contract for yet another year.
So do you expect the system implementation to take a year as well?
We're in the middle of it. We implemented the HR payroll system, went live last March. We're doing the financials now, and we hope to go live in on January 1st, barring any other complications.
Okay. Just want to find out that info.
Thank you. If we have no other comments.
One other comment.
Yes.
I would just like to say to people, remember that tomorrow is the 103rd anniversary of the tragedy of the Armenian genocide, and whether it's a moment of quiet or silence or in solidarity, we need to remember this is something that affects a great number of the members of our community and affects the entire ethos of the world that has yet to be recognized by all parties that should recognize it. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's move on to new business. Do we have any new business? None. Adjournment.
Second?
Okay, we are adjourned.